Welcome back to the deep dive.
Hey there!
So today we're tackling something, I don't know, a little different.
A paradox, really.
A paradox, yeah.
Yeah?
And it's one that I think is going to hit uncomfortably close to home for a lot of people listening.
The idea that success can be a trap.
Exactly. The very thing we're all chasing, right?
Yeah.
The thing you work late nights for, you sacrifice for. And it can actually become a kind of prison.
Yeah, and not just any prison, a really specific architectural one. We're not talking about just feeling stuck. We usually associate failure with being stuck, you know?
Right. You're in the mud, you can't get out.
But the material we're looking at today argues that high performance, it has its own shadow side.
It suggests you can be, wildly successful on paper. You're making great money. You're admired. You're at the top of your game.
But functionally, you've built yourself a cage.
Yes. And the source text we're unpacking today calls it the high-priced cage.
Such a good phrase. So visceral.
It is. You're not in a dungeon. You're in a penthouse. The view is great. The furniture's expensive.
But the door is locked.
And you don't have the key.
Or maybe, and this is what the text gets into, maybe the door is locked from the inside.
Oof. Okay, that's even more terrifying.
Because it means we're the ones holding ourselves captive.
Right. So let's lay out the scenario from the source. This text, the high-priced cage, it just opens with this punch to the gut. It says that most high performers don't burn out from doing too much work. It's not the quantity.
Which is what we always assume. I'm just overworked.
Yeah, I can't hack the hours or I'm weak or something. But it says they burn out because they're carrying the wrong things.
That distinction is so critical. We always think burnout is a volume problem.
Totally. I have too many emails, too many meetings, my calendar is a nightmare.
But this text argues it's a structural problem. It's about the burden of being the only person in the room who can, and I'm quoting here, do the magic.
Do the magic. That phrase really stuck with me. It's that feeling of being the bottleneck.
Yeah.
You might have a team, you might have assistants, maybe even a junior partner. But when it comes down to the actual thing that makes the money,
the genius,
the strategy, the art, that really difficult conversation, it has to be you.
And that's the cage. That right there is the trap. Because if you are the only one who can do the magic, then your revenue is, as the source puts it,
This line.
permanently capped by your heartbeat.
Oof. Capped with your heartbeat.
Oh.
That is just, it's a heavy realization. It basically means if you stop, everything stops.
Everything stops. And that's really the mission of our deep dive today. We're going to explore how to move from being what the text calls a valuable expert.
Which is where most of us are, or want to be.
Exactly. It's a great place to be. But it's also where people get stuck.
Yeah.
We want to move from that to becoming an inarguable authority.
And this isn't just about, branding or marketing, is it?
No. This is not about getting better fonts for your website. This is about neurobiology. It's about systems. It's about something the source calls sovereign decision-making.
And we've got this amazing story coming up later. It involves a train to London, and it perfectly captures the emotional side of this whole shift.
It's almost like a little thriller.
It really is. But before we get to that, let's unpack this high-price cage a bit more. I really want to understand the mechanics of it. How do smart, successful people end up there?
Well, the text gives a great financial example. It talks about someone earning, say, £15,000 a month.
Okay, which to most people listening, that sounds like the dream.
It's the goal, right? They're hitting six figures, you're successful, you can buy the nice car. But the source says, if you are the primary engine of every single result at that level, you don't have an empire. You just have a job.
With a really, really demanding boss. Yeah, the classic self-employed trap, right? You quit your 9-to-5 to get freedom, and you end up working for a complete lunatic.
Exactly. And this is where we have to get really clear on the difference between labor and legacy.
Okay, break that down.
When you're earning that 15 grand a month by personally overseeing every client, every deliverable, every tiny nuance, you are selling your labor.
High-priced labor, for sure.
It's premium labor, absolutely, but
Yeah.
It's still labor. You are trading your time, your life force, for money.
And the scary part is, that feels sustainable for a really long time.
It does until it isn't.
You can run on adrenaline and coffee for years.
But the limiting factor is always you. It's your energy, your health, the literal hours in your day. And the source makes this really provocative point. It says, you haven't hit your capacity limit because you aren't talented.
Right.
You've hit it because you lack architecture.
Architecture. I love that word in this context because it immediately implies building something.
Something that exists outside of yourself, a structure.
But that's the thing. Why do we resist that? I want to stop you there because the text brings up this idea of bespoke. And I think a lot of people listening, especially consultants, creatives, coaches, are going to bristle at this next part.
Oh, I have a feeling I know exactly which line you're about to say.
Well, think about it. In my head, bespoke is the ultimate status symbol. It's a Savile Row suit. It's the opposite of a commodity.
Mm-hmm. It implies care and craft.
It implies I am listening to you, and I am crafting a solution that is unique to your specific DNA. We wear that as a badge of honor. Oh, I don't have some cookie-cutter program. Everything I do is bespoke.
Right. It feels like the pinnacle of service.
It does. But the text, well, it doesn't quite see it that way.
No, it certainly does not. The text calls bespoke a high-priced hiding place.
Ouch. And then there's a quote that just it hit me right between the eyes. Bespoke is just a sophisticated word for unorganized.
It's meant to be scathing. It's meant to break a delusion.
Okay, so let's get into the psychology of that. Why do we cling to that bespoke label so tightly?
The source argues it's about safety. It feels safe. If every client requires a unique, one-of-a-kind solution that only I can come up with, right here, in the moment,
Then I'm indispensable.
you're indispensable. No one can replace you.
I have to admit, I felt so called out reading that. Because
Yeah.
it feels like it devalues the artistry, you know?
Yeah.
If I systematize what I do, am I just becoming a factory?
Am I just a robot now?
Yeah. Guy giving everyone a generic, one-size-fits-all solution, that's the fear.
That is the absolute core fear. But the source says we cling to bespoke not because it's actually better for the client, but because it's safer for us.
It protects our ego.
It protects our ego and our perceived job security. Think about the architecture of a bespoke business. Every new client means a blank sheet of paper.
Starting from scratch. Every single time.
You have to invent the strategy from scratch. You have to be the genius in the room again and again and again.
Which guarantees,
Yeah.
it absolutely guarantees,
Yeah.
that I remain the bottleneck.
Exactly. If it's bespoke, it must be done by you. You can't hand it off to a junior associate.
You can't automate it.
You can't build a tool for it. So while your ego gets this massive boost because you're the magician, you're the only one who can solve the puzzle.
Your freedom, your capacity, your entire life hits a ceiling.
You are trading your own bandwidth for that feeling of importance.
Wow. So we're essentially using bespoke as a form of job security.
It's the ultimate job security. If no one else can understand or replicate your process, you can never be fired.
But you can also never leave.
You can never, ever leave. You've built a prison out of your own uniqueness. The business cannot breathe without you.
And that's why the text argues that this shift from expert to authority isn't just a business tactic.
No, it's a full-on identity shift.
Which, that brings us to the emotional side of this. Because you can't just logic your way out of a cage that you built with your own ego.
No, you have to feel your way out.
You have to confront why you built the cage in the first place. Okay, I want to shift gears here because the text does something amazing. It pivots from business architecture and systems to something much more internal.
The London train story.
The London train story. And honestly, this part gave me chills. I think anyone who has ever tried to level up in their life or business has had this exact kind of morning.
It's so relatable, and the context is key. The persona in the text, Gina, she isn't just going to London for a shopping trip.
No, this is a big deal. She has booked a high-end photo shoot.
A very expensive, very visible photo shoot.
And it's not just nice headshots for her LinkedIn profile. The text calls it a power pose shoot.
Right, so she is actively trying to step into that authority role we were just talking about.
She's trying to manifest it,
Yeah.
to externalize this confidence she doesn't quite feel yet. She's spending the money, she's hired the team, but internally,
Internally, she is a wreck.
a complete wreck. The source describes this visceral dissonance. She's packing the blazers and the nice shoes, trying to look the part of this powerful CEO.
But inside, she feels like a total fraud. She's terrified of being seen. This is imposter syndrome, but amplified by 1,000 because she's about to document it on camera for the world to see.
So the night before this big sheet, the pressure is just mounting. She finally goes to sleep, and she has a dream.
And it's one of those dreams that feels more real than reality.
Totally. So vivid, so lucid. In the dream, she's at the train station, she's looking at the big departure board, and every single train to London says, canceled.
And the app on her phone goes black. Total chaos.
Okay, now let's pause there. In a lot of the spiritual or, manifestation circles that high performers often run in, how would we usually interpret a dream like that?
Well, that's easy. That's a sign.
A giant, flashing neon stop sign from the universe.
The universe is saying, don't go. It's not meant to be. The energy is off.
Mercury must be in retrograde.
Exactly. And let's be honest, if I woke up with that heavy feeling of dread and then I had that dream on top of it.
Oh, I'd be calling the photographer. I'm so sorry, an emergency came up.
And the most dangerous part of that is the feeling you get after you cancel.
Relief. Pure, sweet relief.
And that relief is the drug. That relief is what keeps you in the cage. The source identifies this exact moment as the critical junction.
The choice point.
Yes. The old self, the one who wants to stay safe, the one who built the bespoke cage, it uses intuition as an escape hatch.
Wow. We weaponize our spirituality to keep ourselves small.
That's a powerful way to put it. But Gina doesn't do that. She wakes up, she remembers the dream, she feels all the fear, and then she asks this question.
This question, I circled it 3 times in my notes. It's the sovereign question. She asks herself, where is my yes coming from?
Such a powerful tool, because not all yeses are created equal. Where is my yes coming from?
Is it coming from obligation? Is it coming from fear of what happens if I say no?
Or is it coming from a place of genuine power and presence?
Let's break those 2 down. What does a yes from obligation or fear look like in this situation?
Well, the text calls it a yes from compulsion. It's when you perform an action because you feel you have to.
I have to do this photo shoot because I already paid for it.
I have to take this client call because if I don't, they'll be mad at me.
I have to deliver this project because that's what's expected.
It's heavy. It's driven by external pressure or the fear of letting people down. It's reactive, not creative.
Okay. And a yes from power.
A yes from power is sovereign. It means you are choosing to move forward, not because you are being forced to, but because it aligns with who you are becoming.
It's an active choice.
It's grounded, it's present. And here's the key. Even if you are afraid, and Gina was definitely afraid, the decision comes from a place of agency. I am choosing to go because this is an act of becoming who I want to be.
So, back to the story. She asks the question. She realizes that the old reaction, staying home, would be a yes from fear.
A yes to comfort, a yes to the cage.
So she decides to go to the station anyway.
Oh.
She chooses presence over fear. She packs her bag, gets in the car, and drives to the station.
She is physically moving her body toward the thing that scares her.
And she is committing to the movement, regardless of the outcome. That's a key detail. She is breaking the pattern of the old self.
She gets to the station, she walks up to the platform, and then we get the twist.
This is the part that got me. I honestly did not see this guy.
The departure board.
All the trains to London were actually canceled.
The dream was literally true.
The dream was real. There were no trains running that day. She physically could not get to the photo shoot.
And in a normal story, this would be the failure. Well, I tried, but the world stopped me.
See? I should have just listened to the dream and stayed in bed.
But the source argues something profound. It says that the moment she stepped onto that platform, the victory was already secured.
But how? She didn't get the photos. The whole point of the trip didn't happen.
Not at all. And this is the crucial lesson. The source says the win had already happened.
The win was in the decision.
The win was in the decision to move. The win was in not abandoning herself to her fear. She chose to move toward visibility. She didn't let the anxiety or the premonition dictate her action.
She acted from power.
She acted from power. The external result, whether the train ran or not, was secondary to the internal shift that had already occurred.
That is such a subtle but life-changing shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It's moving from, I need this external outcome to validate me, to I am validating myself by taking the sovereign action.
And that connects directly back to the business architecture. The high-price cage is built on compulsion.
The need to deliver the magic, constantly, to feel safe and valuable.
But moving to architectural authority requires that same sovereign mindset. You have to build the systems and step back, not because you're lazy, but because you're operating from power.
You're trusting the architecture you built rather than your own frantic, moment-to-moment labor. So, okay, we've got the mindset. We have the emotional pivot point. Now let's get into the mechanics. Because the source drops this phrase that sounds very impressive and scientific. The neurobiology of mastery.
This is where we demystify the magic.
Yes, because we love to think our intuition is this mystical gift from the heavens. I just know what the client needs.
I can just feel the market trends. It makes us feel special.
It does. It makes us feel like the magician.
And the text basically says, stop it. It's not mystical. It's biology. It's just neurons firing in a really efficient way.
Okay, let's get a little technical for a second then. How does this neurobiology of mastery actually work?
This is maybe one of the most important concepts for any expert to really truly grasp if they want to scale.
Yeah.
Think about when you first learned how to drive a car.
Oh, God. It was terrifying. It was pure terror.
Right.
Hands at 10 and 2, checking every mirror every 5 seconds, consciously thinking about the pressure on the gas pedal. I couldn't even listen to the radio.
Why not?
Because I needed every ounce of my brain power just to keep the car in the lane.
Exactly. That is high cognitive load. Your prefrontal cortex is manually processing every single input. It's exhausting. But now
I can drive home from work, be on a phone call, drink a coffee, and suddenly I'm in my driveway and I don't even remember the trip.
you brake without thinking. You merge onto the highway without calculating the physics of it. Why?
Because I've done it 10,000 times.
Yeah.
It's automatic.
It's automatic. Your brain has moved that skill from the conscious processing center to the subconscious high-speed pattern recognition centers. It has become efficient. Now, apply that to your business.
Okay.
When a new client sits down and tells you their problem, you are not analyzing it from scratch like that new driver. You have seen this pattern or a variation of it 500 times before.
So the solution just kind of pops into my head.
Yeah.
It feels like a gut instinct.
It feels like a gut instinct, but it's actually a database query. In a millisecond, your brain ran a search across 20 years of data. Every client, every project, every failure, every success, and it delivered the result. That feeling is mastery.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that sounds like a good thing. Why is that a problem for scaling a business? That sounds like a superpower.
It is a superpower, but it has a fatal flaw for anyone who wants to build a legacy. It's the black box problem.
A black box.
If the perfect answer just pops into your head, fully formed, you probably can't explain how you got there.
Right. I just know.
You just know. And if you can't explain the how, you can't teach it to a team member. You can't build a system around it. You can't turn it into a piece of software.
I see. So I'm the only one with access to the database.
You are the only one with a database, and the database is locked inside your skull. And as long as it stays there, you are the bottleneck. You are the only one who can drive the car.
So the big transition from expert to authority requires translation. We have to take that internal high-speed pattern recognition, and we have to consciously slow it down, map it out, and turn it into an external framework.
We have to turn the internal knowing into external architecture. We have to pry open the black box, look at the steps our brain took automatically, and write them down for someone else to follow.
That sounds incredibly tedious.
Yeah.
Almost like demeaning to the craft, like I'm going back to kindergarten.
It is. It's painful. It can feel like going back to driver's ed when you're already a professional race car driver. But if you don't do it, you are selling magic tricks instead of a reproducible methodology.
And you can't franchise a magician.
You can't franchise a magician.
Okay, so this is the core of it. We need to externalize the magic. The source gives us 3 pillars for how to actually do this. 3 concrete pillars to move from the cage to authority. Let's get into pillar 1.
Pillar 1 is extracting the golden thread.
The golden thread.
And this starts with what the source calls the 595 rule. The premise is that your true genius, the thing that actually creates the massive transformation in value for your clients, is only about 5% of what you actually do on a day-to-day basis.
Wait, hold on. Only 5%. That seems incredibly low. I work a 60-hour week. You're telling me only 3 of those hours are actually valuable? That kind of hurts my feelings.
It's not that the other 95% of the hours aren't necessary at first. It's that they aren't the genius.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about a world-class surgeon. The genius, the golden thread, is knowing exactly where to cut and having the incredible dexterity to do it perfectly. That part might take 20 minutes. That's the 5%.
And the other 95%?
It's scrubbing in, prepping the patient, doing the consults, filling out the endless paperwork, the follow-up appointments, talking to the family.
All the stuff around the core value.
All the stuff around the core value. And in the high price cage, we are doing the 5% and all of the 95%.
Right. And crucially, we're probably charging based on the time it takes to do both, instead of charging for the value of that 5%.
Precisely. Which brings us to this idea of frequency coherence.
Okay, that sounds a little sci-fi. What does that mean in a practical sense?
It's about aligning your pricing with the value you create, not the labor you perform. If you are selling labor, if you're selling by the hour or by the project based on
You're
hours.
selling the process. You're selling the struggle.
Yes. You're basically saying, pay me for my time. Pay me because I am sweating for you.
Look how hard I'm working. We do that all the time.
We do, but if you extract that golden thread, that 5% of genius, and you build a system around it, you stop selling the process. You start selling the architecture of the result.
So the price shouldn't reflect how many hours I worked.
Yeah.
It should reflect the size of the transformation I provided.
Exactly. If I can solve your million-dollar problem in a 10-minute conversation because I have 20 years of pattern recognition and a perfect framework, why should I be paid for 10 minutes of work?
You should be paid for the $1 million result.
That is frequency coherence. Your price matches the frequency of the outcome, not the duration of the labor.
That requires a massive shift in confidence, though. You have to really, truly believe in the value of your 5%.
You do.
It feels almost, I don't know, arrogant to charge a fortune for something that was easy for you.
But it only feels easy to you because of the mastery. To the client, it's impossible. That's the value gap you're charging for.
And that's why most people stay in the cage. It's just easier to justify charging for hours because everyone understands hours.
It's harder to stand in the authority of, this result is worth X, regardless of how long it takes me.
Okay, that's huge. Let's move to Pillar 2, Category of One infrastructure. This sounds like it could be about branding, but the source frames it quite differently.
It frames it in the context of what it calls the 2026 economy.
What's the prediction there? What happens in the 2026 economy?
The argument is that the middle ground in every industry is disappearing, and the main distinction is going to be between experts and authorities.
And what's the difference?
The text argues that in the very near future, the label expert is becoming a commodity. Everyone is an expert. Information is free. You can find an expert on literally anything in 5 seconds on Google, or just ask an AI.
So being really good at what you do isn't enough anymore.
No. Competence is the floor, not the ceiling. Being an expert just puts you in a big bucket with all the other experts, where you're left competing on price or availability.
Who's the cheapest?
Yeah.
Or who can start tomorrow?
It's a race to the bottom. But an authority, according to the source, is an entirely different thing. It's an asset class.
An asset class.
Yeah.
That implies value that appreciates over time. That implies something you invest in.
It implies that you are not just one option among many. You're the only option for a specific result. You become a category of one.
And how do you do that? It's not just by shouting louder on social media.
No, not at all. You do it by turning your mastery, that golden thread, into proprietary infrastructure.
Okay, can you give me a concrete example of what proprietary infrastructure looks like? Because that sounds like I need to go build a software company.
It doesn't have to be software. It's about intellectual property. So think about the difference between hiring a generic business coach versus buying into a named trademarked methodology.
Like the EO system or scaling up.
Exactly. If I hire a generic business coach, I'm hiring a person to talk to me. If I buy into the EO system, I'm not just buying a person, I'm buying a proven machine that generates a specific result.
And that machine, the books, the frameworks, the tools, that's the infrastructure.
That's the proprietary infrastructure. And when you have that, your own named frameworks, models, assessments, codified processes, you're no longer competing against other people.
Because if someone wants your specific methodology,
They have to come to you. You have engineered your own tiny monopoly.
I love that. You're not fighting for market share. You've created your own market. Okay, that's Pillar 2. Let's look at Pillar 3. This one sounds a bit ominous. Engineering the vacuum.
It does sound like space travel, doesn't it? But it's actually about leadership and legacy.
Engineering the vacuum. What does that mean?
It refers to intentionally creating a space where the system, your methodology, works independently of you, the founder.
So it's about making yourself redundant.
In a way, yes. It introduces this metric called result velocity.
Result velocity. How fast the result happens.
Not just how fast. The key question is this. How quickly can your methodology deliver the promised transformation without you in the room?
Without me in the room.
Nah.
Wow. Okay, that's the kicker. That is the ego death for every founder right there.
That is the ultimate test of your architecture. If the transformation slows down or stops the second you leave the room, your result velocity is basically zero. You are still the engine.
But if you can engineer a vacuum, a space where the client interacts with your systems, your frameworks, your content, and they still get the result?
Then you have built a legacy.
But the big fear there is, doesn't that make me irrelevant? If the system works perfectly without me, why do they need me at all?
That is the existential fear. That is why we subconsciously sabotage our own systems. We're afraid of the void. If I'm not constantly needed to put out fires, who am I?
Right. What is my purpose?
But the source flips this entirely. It has this beautiful line about systems.
Oh, I remember this one.
It says, systems aren't just for efficiency. They are the stewards of your legacy.
That reframe is so important because we usually think of systems as boring. SOPs, checklists, automation. It feels cold and bureaucratic.
It feels like the opposite of creativity.
But if you view them as stewards of your legacy, it changes everything. A steward is someone who cares for something valuable on behalf of the owner.
So your systems are the things that care for your genius when you're not there to do it personally?
So if I don't build systems, I'm basically saying my genius isn't worth preserving.
You're saying your genius dies with you, or at the very least, it sleeps when you sleep. Systems allow your impact to become immortal, in a business sense.
They allow the impact to continue while you rest, or play, or go create the next big thing.
You are creating a space, a vacuum, where your genius can live and thrive independently of your personal labor.
It all comes back to that initial paradox, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The high-price cage is comfortable because we get to be the hero of every story.
We're the magician, pulling the rabbit out of the hat every time.
But true authority, true legacy requires us to step out of the spotlight and let the architecture shine.
It requires us to stop being the service and start being the sovereign architect.
Sovereign architect. That's the identity shift. The source has a warning here, though. It says, you are currently slightly more aware than you are comfortable.
That's the feeling of growth, isn't it? That slight discomfort.
Yeah. Once you realize the cage exists, you can't unsee the bars.
It becomes uncomfortable. You realize that your success, the very thing you were so proud of, has actually become your ceiling.
So how do we actually break through that ceiling? The text talks about coherence.
Coherence between your inner state and your outer systems. This is really, really important. You can't just go buy a bunch of project management software and call it a system.
That's just buying tools.
That's just tools. Coherence means your internal authority, that deep down feeling of, I know what I'm doing and I trust my value, is perfectly mirrored and supported by the external structures you build.
So it's not about working harder.
It is never about working harder at this level. It's about alignment. And when you have that coherence, something shifts. Visibility stops feeling like exposure.
Oh, that's a big one. Visibility feels like exposure. I think so many people feel that.
Like if I step up into a bigger spotlight, people will see that I'm a fraud.
Or they'll see I'm not perfect, or I don't have all the answers.
That's the old self-talking. That's the self that relies on its own labor for validation. The self that thinks, I'm only as good as my last project.
But when you're a sovereign architect,
then visibility becomes something you inhabit. You aren't exposing yourself to attack. You are occupying the structure you built. You're standing on the foundation of your authority.
and that foundation is solid. It's safe.
It's safe because it's not just you anymore. It's the work. It's the legacy. It's the infrastructure. The pressure is off your individual shoulders and onto the architecture.
And the architecture can hold the weight. You are never meant to hold it all yourself.
Never.
So for the listeners who are nodding along right now, maybe sweating a little bit because this all sounds way too familiar.
Maybe they're looking at their calendar for next week and just seeing 40 hours of doing the magic.
Yes. For them, the source gives us a really practical challenge. It calls for an audit.
The bespoke audit.
So how do we do this? What are we looking for on Tuesday morning when we open our laptops?
We need to look at all of our processes with a really critical, honest eye. Where are we claiming something is bespoke when really it's just disorganized?
Where are we inserting ourselves into a process, not because it truly adds value, but because we need to feel needed?
Where are you personally the bottleneck?
Find the bottleneck. That is the bar of the cage.
And that is the first thing you need to start dismantling. Ask yourself this for every task. Could I turn this decision into a framework? Could I turn this repeated conversation into a recorded asset? Could I create a checklist for this?
I think that's such a powerful place to land this. We started with the idea of the high-price cage, this comfortable trap of our own making. We walked through the emotional pivot of the London train story choosing power over fear, even when the external world doesn't cooperate.
We broke down the science of mastery, codifying that intuitive genius into frameworks so we're not just selling magic tricks.
And we ended with this powerful identity shift, becoming the sovereign architect.
It's a complete journey. It's from labor to legacy.
From expert to authority.
From compulsion to power.
And it all seems to hinge on those three pillars we discussed, extracting the golden thread.
building that category of one infrastructure.
And having the courage to engineer the vacuum.
And if you can do those three things, you don't just get your time back, you get your life back, and you build something that actually matters beyond you.
Before we wrap up, I just want to circle back to one thing for a moment. That sovereign question.
Where is my yes coming from?
It's the compass, isn't it?
It really is.
I want to ask everyone listening, tomorrow morning when you open your email or you get on that first Zoom call or you sit down to do the creative work, just pause and ask yourself that question. Is the yes I'm about to give coming from fear, from the need to please, from the need to prove that I'm working hard?
Or is it coming from power? Is it coming from the architect?
And remember the lesson of the train story. Even if the trains are canceled, even if the external result doesn't happen the way you planned.
The win is in the source of the decision. If you move from a place of power, you have already won. The internal victory precedes the external one.
And here's a final thought for you to chew on. We talked a lot about safety today. We think that keeping everything bespoke, keeping it all manual, keeping our hands on the wheel every single second, we think that keeps us safe.
Because we're in control.
We're in control. But consider this. If you are the only thing holding it all together, you are a single point of failure.
If you get sick, if you burn out, if you just want to take a real vacation, the whole thing collapses.
So ask yourself this. Is your current feeling of security actually your biggest risk? Is the control you prize so highly the very thing that makes your entire business, your entire legacy, fragile?
Maybe true safety and true freedom only comes when the result can finally exist without you.
That's the paradox. You have to let go to really hold on.
Perfectly said.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
So when Gina offered me the opportunity to do this, I jumped for it because I think anything that you can do that is going to chip away at these limiting the beliefs, the things that hold you back, is really, really worth doing. So it's been a really lovely experience, and if anybody's a bit worried about it, just do it, because the opportunity to connect through havening is really, really powerful. It's really, really powerful.
But really helpful, I think, in terms of having that kind of guided process just to kind of let the ideas and the feelings and the images flow, and then try and work out what it actually means afterwards, and to come up with, and it made intuitive sense. It's really, really helpful to then kind of have that debrief of, okay, what can we actually do with this stuff? Because that's where we tend to get stuck, is kind of like coming out of it going, oh, this is all some really interesting ideas and thoughts and feelings and images. But yeah, then, you know, how can we actually harness them to do something different? And I think that's been really, really helpful in terms of clarifying really what I need to prioritize to go forward in a way that will deal with some of that stuff that came up.
I would like to point out that I'm actually a therapist myself, and sometimes therapists also need a therapist. So I was really stuck, and then one day a friend posted a link for Gina's wealth and money attracting short course, and I went, this sounds great, I'm just gonna book it. And I loved it so much. I really had an epiphany on that course, and it was only meant to be a demonstration, and yet it was really it just opened up possibilities that I was stuck before, and now like, ooh, I can use this to unstuck myself. I'm a great believer that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And you appeared at the right time. That's all there is to it. So, you know, if anybody is watching this video, it means Gina has appeared in your life. So please give it a try.
She walks where the sky meets the sea, a calm in the chaos, wild and free. The light wraps around her soul. She's